All right. Welcome. Hello,
Welcome, welcome.
everybody. Yeah, thanks for joining us. Welcome from wherever you're watching. My name is Brandon Blake. You can call me Teacher Bando. You can call me Happy Man. You can call me whatever you want. But just know that you are here and you are our friend. So we're happy you're here. I'm here with my very good friend, Victor Lamont Wooten. What's up, Victor? How you doing?
Life is good, Brandon. I'm enjoying it. Even with all the issues going on, I'm enjoying life. Happy to be here at this remarkable historical time, and I'm happy to be here with you.
Thanks, man. Well, it is a historical time, and I'm glad we could be here together. And I'm sure we will get to unpack a little bit about what these times are like and how we can bring light into this world that's experiencing some shade, as our new friend Amanda Gorman put it. Man, was
hmm
she something or what?
She was amazing. She was amazing. Yeah, yeah.
Anybody that did not get an opportunity to see Amanda Gorman's poetry during Biden's inauguration, go check that out. It'll
Yeah,
it'll really warm the soul.
yeah, absolutely. It was She's amazing.
Well, Vic, some of my friends out there, they know who you are. They know that you play bass. They know that you're a world famous drummer. You dabble with some bass. All right. So those of you that do know Vic, I'm joking. He is a bass player. So Victor is the bass player for the Bella Fleck and the Flecktones. For those that don't know, and if you also don't know, Victor does some amazing solo work. And when I say amazing, I don't just mean the pyrotechnics. He's got that, but he writes fabulous songs for his bands that come in all iterations, whether it's a trio or a quartet or his solo stuff or a duo with JD Blair, who is the timekeeper of all timekeeping drummers. And it's just really great to hear all of the different iterations of Victor Wooten that you put out there. And I encourage anybody that has not heard my friend Victor play music, just go down the rabbit hole and check out some stuff. So definitely check out his music.
Thank you, thank you. It's all out there.
It's all
You
out there. And
can find
I
it.
will say, I hope people support musicians these days. Look, I know we can all watch clips on YouTube, and definitely go check out some clips of Vic on YouTube. There's some good ones, but also go buy some albums. He's got a website called vixmerch.com, VIXMERCH.com. And that's where you can pick up, I think, just about all of your albums.
Just
And
about. Yeah,
yeah, shirts, and you got face masks, which thank you. Really important to stay safe and stay healthy. So we
yeah.
love that. So if you want to support Vic, go to vixmerch.com and pick some stuff up. We got lots of good stuff.
I appreciate that. I
Mhm.
appreciate that. Yeah, artists need to be supported.
It's so true. And look, it's so easy to stream music. It's so easy to just go to YouTube. And you know what? Those services are amazing ways to discover new artists. But once you discover an artist that really speaks to you, or somebody that you're like, I really need to support this person, go support that person. We can't support through tours. We can't support right now through going to the merch booth at the store, but we can go to the merch booth online. We can go to the store by buying the CD online. We can download MP3 tracks, officially, where you actually get money. And that's how we support.
I agree. Yeah, hardly any of us can imagine life without music. But we're growing up in an era where we want it for free. Not only do
Mm.
we want it for free, we expect it for free. So that puts me in a business of making records that people won't buy. And I think we should support it. It helps us out if we support each other. And I mean, musicians won't buy records or pay to go see each other. But our 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 industry will die, not a slow death, a quick one, if we don't support it. So I like to say that when I was young, television was free and we paid for music. It's exactly the opposite now. We're happy to pay for Netflix, but we want our music for free. And what it does for people like me, Brandon, or people like us, I should say, it forces us to have spread out so far that many of us have to get out of the music business, because to make money we have to do other things, other things to make
Hmm.
what we call a living.
Hmm.
You know, we can have a life, but to make a living, where I've got 4 kids and 2 of them are in college, you know, to pay for all of that, I have to branch out and write books and run music camps and venture into other avenues, which I love. But my main thing is making music. But the making music is not making money.
You know,
So I've got to do other things, and maybe
that's a
that's a good thing. You know, maybe there's a that light at the end of this tunnel that I don't see yet. But I think we should support the arts. You know, as brilliant as that young woman, you know, uh, saying that speech the other day on national TV, seeing around the world, she should be able to make her living from being that brilliant. You know, she should be able to make her living from that, as good
right.
as she is.
Right. People should
Um,
have been able to have a way. Oh my goodness, Amanda Gorman, she's incredible. Oh, I want to share this article. I want to share these links, right? Imagine if all of the excitement and jubilation around Amanda Gorman yesterday and today and how viral she went. Imagine if
mhm.
everybody that consumed the articles, the YouTube clips, the news clips of her reciting her poem. Imagine if all of us said, "Wow, I'm kicking $5 to Amanda Gorman for that.
Right.
She's doing really well." And that's what's just. That's what's fair. But the back end systems don't allow the masses to support in that kind of acute way. So that's where we all need to step back and realize, yes, the internet helps us connect. Yes, the internet helps us find new people and see new things that really speak to our souls.
Hmm.
But then it's up to us to do the extra work and put in the legwork to actually go support these people with actual money. That's
Yeah.
what's
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is now is that we have to put in the legwork to figure out how to do that. Where it used to be, hey, I like this music. Let me just go buy it. Now it's, hey,
Mhm.
I love this music. Let me go download it.
That's right. That's right.
And you know, and it used to be, and it sounds like I'm the old guy complaining, and maybe I am, but I'm just talking about, you know, how it used to be when I had to walk uphill both ways in the snow with one shoe. And but it used to be, if I like this song, I bought the whole album. All right. Now if I like the song, I buy the song and I say I've heard the whole album.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
Oh man, have you heard Brandon's new record? Oh yeah, I've heard it. Oh, which songs did you hear? Well, I only heard the one, you know, or I
Right.
heard the three. But an artist creates a vision. Whenever we make a record, Brandon, it's not one song, it's a vision, right? We take our time figuring out the order of the songs, which one should be first, how much space between this slow ballad and the next fast song. What's the title? There's so much behind the scenes thought, effort, money, time, sweat that goes into it that gets lost.
Hmm.
And in my opinion, it's the equivalent of downloading the scene I like from a movie, or maybe the 3 scenes I like from a movie, watch them out of order, but say I've seen the movie.
It's a good analogy.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. So, you know, I think if people like an artist, like we got to see Jennifer Lopez, we got to see Lady Gaga. If you hear that song and say, wow, there's something about that I like, go buy the album.
Hmm.
Right? And then I say, then if you really like that artist, research that artist. Who did Lady Gaga listen to? Oh, she used to like listening to whoever. Then you go buy that album, you know, to see where she came from. And then you're
Right.
putting this whole puzzle piece together. It doesn't just stop at the song that I liked, you know?
You know, and what an opportunity at this time in our history where so much of our lives are paused. And I know there's a lot of people getting back to life. Vaccines are here. Thank goodness. This is great. If you're listening, go get a vaccine.
Yeah.
If you don't want a vaccine, go get a vaccine. So, this is what we can do to help each other. But in this time period where so much is just frozen, it's really important to listen to people like Victor, right? You're one of our elders. You're one of the leaders of our community. And I know you're like, oh, uphill in the snow and old man. But I think we also live in a time where so much of the youth is not necessarily looking towards their elders for answers and conversation. They're looking towards their peers for acceptance and reinforcement of what they're already doing. So there's a linear dialogue, but there's not a cross generational dialogue. And I
Yeah.
fear that there's knowledge and wisdom getting lost in that transfer. What do you think?
You're absolutely right. And again, I know I sound like the old guy, and I hope I do, because we need to listen to old people. My granddad used to say, never take directions, never ask directions to someone walking in the same direction as you, because they haven't been there.
Hmm.
You want to ask directions from the person coming the other way, right? So that's the thing to say. You listen to your elders
Hmm.
who have been there. They've been where you're trying to go. And that's any what's the word? Any like the Aborigines, the Kalahari Bushmen, our ancestors, and there's still tribes out there that haven't been socialized in the same way, or
Mm-hmm.
my vocabulary is disappearing. They still live that way, right? We live in a way exactly like you said. We want to learn from people who don't know anything more than what we know,
Right.
because we're looking for acceptance. Bass players want to impress other bass players, right? And bass players don't hire bass players, right? Bass player, if you want to impress anyone, impress the singer, impress the keyboard player who's the band leader and hiring,
Impress the drummer.
or the drummer, but basically just be the best you can be.
Right. Right.
That's really the main thing, is to be the best musician, right? For me, my instrument is designed to do what I'm going to say, but all musicians should do it. You should play in a way that shows the audience how good someone else sounds. Okay. We all teach, even we teach, and we all want to sound good ourselves. But now that I'm older, I realize my job is to make you sound good. If I play for you, Brandon, I want the audience to say, wow, Brandon's amazing. Not his bass player's amazing. Brandon's amazing.
So then let me challenge you. Let me have you build on that in a new way. How do you take that teaching, because that's a really grounded teaching, right? How do we listen in musical conversation in a way that amplifies somebody else's voice, that allows somebody else's being to be lifted up and exalted? How do we take that mentality and apply it to life in conversation with people using our words and not our instruments?
Well, you already said it, by listening.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Exactly. I mean, you just asked me a brilliant question, but if I didn't listen, then I don't know what to say. Right? If I only want to say what I want to say and don't listen to your question, it'll be obvious that I don't really know what I'm talking about, that I just want to talk about myself. It'll be obvious. But in music, we've allowed it to not be as obvious, because we celebrate the person who's doing this thing. We watch on YouTube, and if you do this one thing, you say, oh, he's great. Oh, wow, she's great. How did she do?
Right.
Right? But the people who get hired by everybody, like in the bass world, the newer generation, you have someone like a guy named Pino Palladino. Like a generation before Pino Palladino, you might have a Lee Sklar. Maybe before that, you had a Duck Dunn or a Carol Kay, right? Because the females were there too. It's a male-driven world, but the females are there also, and you can't ignore that, right? And there's a lot of males that would like to ignore it, but you can't. right? Carol Kay and all the Beach Boys and all this other stuff. Amazing, right?
Yep.
We don't know those musicians that I just made for taking solos. All I know is that Lee Sklar's been on over 3,000. I'm sorry. Not 3,000. 30,000
Unreal.
records.
Unreal. Not even, hey, Lee Sklar recorded 30,000 clips in the recording of his iPhone.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
30,000 records with
Yeah,
people.
we're not saying Lee Sklar got 30,000 hits on his video.
Right.
He's been on 30,000 different records. He's had that many different recordings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll challenge anyone who knows his name, and I'll say, I bet you've never heard Lee Sklar take a solo.
Correct. I've never.
Lee Sklar is known for making other people sound good. James Taylor, right? Whether it's you know, Clint Black or Willie Nelson or all these great people, U2, you know, he's known for making people sound better. And the people that are hiring know that. So he gets the call. And if it's a slightly, and Lee Sklar, though, here's the thing about Lee. Lee plays everything.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, he does the rock stuff. He does the country records.
Oh, I thought
But
you
for
meant
those that
different.
like jazz, I'm sorry.
Okay. I thought
Yeah.
you meant different instruments, but he's playing.
No. I'm
different-
sorry. Every style of music.
Got it.
For those that know jazz and like the drummer Billy Cobham, who used to play with the John McLaughlin, you know, Mahavishnu Orchestra, Lee Sklar's on the Spectrum album, Red Baron, Spectrum, all this stuff. But then there's a great song by exactly that's Lee Sklar.
I didn't know that.
That's Lee Sklar. And then you get the Weather Girls. It's raining men. Hallelujah. That's Lee Sklar. But then you can go, no, in my mind, I'm going to Carolina. You know, you can get to some James Taylor, cool, great stuff. Lee Sklar, all over the place.
Yeah. You know what my favorite Lee Sklar bit is? I know my wife Sabrina's watching and she totally agrees. Our favorite Lee Sklar bass line is he recorded the bass line to the theme song in the 1980s from the show Alf.
Ah.
And it's this funky line. And I remember growing up, like, you know, just loving it. And then
nice.
You don't find out it's Lee Sklar until you're like in a Wikipedia wormhole decades later.
Nice. See, now in my world, being a little younger than you, I'm sorry, a little older than you, being a little older than you, it was Fat Albert, Fred Sanford, the Jeffersons, that kind of stuff. So now I'm talking Chuck Rainey.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yep. Chuck Rainey with all this funky stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And back then I wasn't paying attention to the names of bass players.
Sure.
But I knew the music. And as I grew up, and especially now that we're all friends with Chuck Rainey, I'm like, what? You played on that? Louis Armstrong's original version of What a Wonderful World? That's you, Chuck? You know, the name game, the original version.
I was going to say Shirley Ellis. That's my favorite Rainey track.
Banana, Fana, Full Fana, for Fee-Fi. That was Chuck Rainey. I'm like, what? You know?
I know.
Just amazing stuff. Dancing Machine, the Jackson 5. You know,
amazing.
Great stuff. Great
classic
stuff.
Bass lines.
Yeah. And at that time, to bring it back around, at that time, we would hear that on the radio. We would run to the store if we had any money. And a lot of times we had to put our money together and we would buy the whole album because of the one song. And then we would listen to the whole album.
Right.
As a group. I didn't put on my headphones and listen by myself. We gathered and we listened. And then we passed the vinyl around and read the album credits just for fun. And if it was a double album that opened, that meant more photographs, more stuff to read. You know, we loved it. We loved it.
Right. Like when you get a record and it's a box record and you're like, ooh, look at that. It's the Jocko box set. Look at all these liner notes.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Like that's a lost art, just sitting and listening and reading the liner notes and absorbing yourself in an album. And you bring up a good point. And I want you to just mention real quickly what you do at Berkeley with it. But you mentioned that now we're all with our headphones on and our little thing and listening to our super hyper compressed music in our headphones as a solo experience. And listening to music as a solo experience is a beautiful thing, taking nothing away from that. But we've moved so far away from the model of communal musical experiences. And so
Right.
you're doing something at Berkeley with that. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, there's a few things that happen at Berkeley College of Music, and I'm just happy that I get to be a part of that beautiful college. And I thank my friend Steve Bailey for making it happen on a regular basis. I used to visit there for the last few decades with Bela or by myself, but now I'm actually part of the bass faculty, and I'm thankful to people for making that happen. But one of the things that I get to do is a lot like the camps that I get to do, which you've been to many times, Brandon, is just get together in groups and we get to see what happens. We just get to jam. You know, I'm the teacher of the class. That just means I may or may not give a little direction, but it's like we get to have a musical conversation. We write songs on the spot. We do some exercises and things like that. But there's also a cool class, and I'm not in charge of this class, but there's another class, and of course everything's on hold right now, where you listen to vinyl. Right? The teacher brings in a vinyl record and the class sits there and listens to it and passes around the liner notes. And then we talk about it.
Beautiful.
Right? We talk about it because then we say, oh, wow, Ron Carter was on bass on this. It's McCoy Tyner on. Who's McCoy Tyner? Let's look McCoy Tyner up. Oh, McCoy Tyner was on this record too. And you
Yeah.
learn and you learn and you let the music speak to you. We turn down the lights after everyone's read the credits. We turn down the lights a little and just let the music soak into you. And we do it in groups. When people go to a concert, you know that the concert's better. Even if the music was the same and the lightings were the same, if you were the only one in the audience, it would not be the same experience. The experience makes the concert better, and the experience is better because of the people around you experiencing it with you.
That's right.
Listening to music used to be the same thing,
Hmm.
right? And also, you know, when we were young, we didn't have much money. So, you know, you may not have the $5 or $6 to go buy an album. But if somebody did, or if we pitched our money, word spread. Such and such got the new Jaco Pastorius record. Such and such got the new Donny Hathaway record, the new Stevie Wonder, the new Rolling Stone. What? Call them up. Hey, when can we come over? When can we come over?
Yep,
And
I
we all
remember that.
we all get together and we just sit there, you know, and sometimes with our instruments, right? But first we would just listen to it. And then we'd have to take turns borrowing it so we could learn it.
And you know what's also cool is back then when you had that kind of experience with an album and with friends, my experience was I had different groups of friends that listened to different genres of music, right? I had my
Right.
jazz cats, I had my death metal heads, I had my hip hop friends,
Yeah, yeah,
I had my
yeah.
rock, my older brother with his rock and roll, and I had everything. So if I was with my death metal friends, be like, "Oh, the new Morbid Angel album's here. Let's listen to it." And we'd all sit and listen to that. And then the very next day, I'd be with my friends and we're listening to the new Alan Holdsworth record or whatever the
Right,
case may be. And I
right.
just love that because it was almost like being an omniglot, right? Somebody who can speak all languages. Even though
Hmm.
I'm not playing this music, I'm listening to others because every genre is a different language onto itself with its
Yeah,
own vocabulary and its own isms within it that people have to learn, right? I can't play rockabilly bass because I don't know that vernacular. So
yeah.
I can listen to it and admire it.
And enjoy it even. Yeah. That's the cool thing about art. You don't have to know anything about it to enjoy it, to get the full picture. You don't have to know anything about it. I can look at a painting. I can't paint a lick, but I can go, wow. I can look at a flower, you know. I don't have to know anything about flowers, but I recognize the beauty. I recognize the depth, the intricacies and the designs of the petals. And I know that there's something more than what's just meeting the eye when I know nothing about it. Art is a lot like that. It's totally
Oof,
like that. You
I
know, it's
love that.
beautiful. It's
That is
beautiful.
beautiful.
I'll
So I
share one thing one more thing, if you don't mind, Brandon. This is
Yeah.
what I put in the beginning of the new book, and I thank my friend Daniel Levitin, a musician, a neuroscientist, and and he smart man, but he helped me come up with this ratio that I'm about to share, and this is just in the book I wrote this new book as fiction, so no one has to take it too seriously. But if you think about this, if I think about in the Western world, 12 inches is a ruler, is a foot, right? If I equate 12 inches to the experience of listening to live music, I go to a concert, I hear live music, that's 12 inches. Listening to vinyl maybe be able to be represented as 8 inches. It's not the same as live, but it's still good. Frequencies are there, not the same as live. It doesn't hit you the same way, doesn't penetrate you the same way, but it's good. It's maybe 8 inches. A CD is waveforms, 6 inches. Okay, we have to remember, we weren't dealing with digital waveforms when we were recording the vinyl. It was 2-inch tape. I won't go into all of that, but it was analog. Okay, it's not digital. Like we're listening to each other digitally. It's different than us sitting next to each other. There's a difference, right? So a foot, live music, vinyl, 8 inches, CD, waveform, 6 inches. Now, an MP3 is about a tenth the size, 1/10 the size of a waveform. So we've instantly gone from 6 inches, half a foot, to half an inch. Put that half an inch through computer speakers or tiny earbuds, we may be at a quarter of an inch. This is what your kid, well, you don't have kids, but this is what my kids and the kids you teach think is normal. A
Right.
quarter of an inch.
Music coming out of this. Look at that. The new phone. Look at that. 1, 2,
Yes.
3, 4, 5, 6. Come on.
Right. But the scary part to me is this happened quickly. We've gone from a foot to a quarter of an inch as the norm. Okay. Everything you hear nowadays on the radio is pitch corrected. So we're not even getting all the pitches.
Mm-hmm.
It's also what we call quantized, where they fix every rhythm. So we're not getting all the rhythms. Right? Everything is compressed. That's why the commercial is louder than the TV show, because they compress it for everything to be as loud as TV will allow. Where the TV show has a little bit of dynamics. But if you notice, you rarely hear anything soft on the radio anymore. It's because everything's compressed, meaning the soft stuff gets boosted up. So now the whole song exists within this range rather than here. So what that means is we're not getting all the dynamics. So we're not getting the frequencies of live music. We're down to a quarter of an inch. We're not getting all the pitches. We're not getting all the dynamics. We're not even getting all the rhythms. So in the book, and this is to me scary, and I don't want to scare anyone, but this is just the reality of it. If a person gets enough illness, sickness in one part of the body, the person's whole body can die. And this, this may be too close to home for some of us, but I know it is for me. If somebody gets cancer, they don't have to have cancer over 100% of their body for that body to die. They just have to have enough cancer in one part of the body. So how much of music has to get sick? And she's sick. How much has to get sick for the whole body to die? That's what I raise. That's the question I ask and raise, the point I raise in the very first chapter of the new book, The Spirit of Music. Because I want the reader to think about that. And no, you don't have to be a musician to be a part of the cause or the cure. Because music is a part of all of our lives. All right? A part of all of our lives. So I want to raise that question to make you think. And then the next question is, what are we going to do about
Mm.
it?
Well, that really dovetails into what I wanted to jump in to ask you. I was like, let's talk about your new project. So your new book, this is very, very exciting. And you just told us a little bit about it. And it feels like, and I think my listeners out there, our listeners out there, really caught that, right? If a live concert is 12 inches and then we shrink it down and it's this, it's like, what is that doing? So, with that said, how how do you how what is next for you? What do you think one of the solutions is? And I know there's no one solution, but what do you think is a tangible way for us to stop this squishing of music and the crushing of musicians? Just what's one or two things that you think everyday
Well,
people could do?
exactly. I don't know the whole answer, but I do know we've
Sure.
touched on it already. It's to
Mhm.
support the arts,
Right. Right. I wanted
right?
to go
Be
back to
be
that.
willing to pay for the music.
Hmm.
Buy a painting, buy a book.
Yeah.
Be willing to that. If that woman that we loved, that young 22-year-old woman writing and reciting that powerful speech, look her up and say, how can I support her? I
Right.
want to make sure she has the time and the whereabouts to continue this.
That's right.
How do we do that? The internet makes it easy now. Look her up.
Yep. She's got a children's book out right now that everybody can support. And that's powerful. Actually, and the
Right.
artist she collaborated with did Barack Obama's children's book of the I Sing. So
Sweet.
this goes back to your like, oh, who's McCoy Tyner? You know, when you're like doing all your research, you're like, ooh, this artist is good. What else have they done? So it's the same thing that you can do with art and books. And as a teacher, I
Right.
love supporting books from artists. It's
Yes.
one like as a teacher, we don't have a Spotify of books and we do this in front of a classroom.
Right.
We need still real analog physical books. So it's been a real departure. Music has gotten super squished, and reading, even when it's squished online, your eyes and brain can still receive it in much of the same way. So it's not
Hmm.
as squished. So music in so many ways is in more danger than many of the other arts, just by how that our art form is being presented to the masses.
Very, very true. So we can start by realizing that. The other thing that the first book, The Music Lesson, and the next book says is that music says that people don't feel me anymore. She says I have a more intimate relationship with computers than I do humans.
Hmm.
So whether you're listening on an iPod or iPhone or great speakers, allow the music to speak to you. Right? It's easy to listen while we wash dishes and all that kind of stuff, and that's good. You want to be able to do it unconsciously too, because sometimes
Sure.
unconsciously, it's like taking a vitamin. You take it, then you go about your day. The
Right.
vitamin goes to work. The music's going to do what it does, but when we add attention and intention to it and really allow that music to move me the way it does on the first dance after your wedding, that song still is meaningful to you. What was your favorite song for the wedding? That first song speaks to you. All songs can speak to you.
What was your wedding song for you and Holly?
You know what? We didn't really have one. What we did have, though, was a jam session with all of our friends that were there. So Bela and Mark O'Connor and Edgar Meyer and all of these people and the kids, we had a jam session at a club. And it wasn't that it was one particular song that we had. It was music and friends and family. It was the whole thing.
That's
Because I,
beautiful.
I would never be able to choose one song. I just can't do it. There are too many, you
I
know?
hear that. I hear
Yeah.
that.
And not to say that others can't,
Sure.
but for me, it was all of it. And the fact that it was a jam session, you know? And I remember my little cousin Justin, who was, he's married with his own kid now, but he was very little and he was been taking violin lessons. And he got up there to play with, at the time, the world's greatest fiddle player, Mark O'Connor. And they got to play together. I loved that. That our wedding got to bring that experience together. And Justin will never forget that. Look at that beautiful
That's
cat.
beautiful. You might have seen me looking from side to side. She's been at my feet like, Dad, when are you going to
Yeah.
be off of your call and feed me? Sorry, Lois. Lois Einhorn, everybody. See,
Lois. Hey,
we have a
Lois.
we had a funny first song for Sabrina and I. We are real jokesters, so our first song that we came in to walk down the aisle to wasn't Pachelbel Canon or anything, like that. And that's cool when people go that route. But we went Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass, the dating game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everybody was
Yeah.
like, what are these two knuckleheads doing? So that was one way that music can tell a totally different story. That's a whole other story.
Yeah. Yeah. Music can speak in ways. It's so powerful because you don't have to understand it.
Mm,
It's not like, I'm a math teacher and I show you a formula and you go, "Ooh, that's beautiful." you know, and
yeah,
if only if you know that formula.
right.
Music, you don't have to know anything,
Mm.
but the music can speak to you, and it speaks to you in so many different ways. Of course, it speaks to your ears, right? But it totally speaks to your emotions. Music can make you feel a certain way. That's why the movie is the way it is. That's why you know the monster's coming before the actors do.
Monsters coming?
right? The music tells you. Like, don't you hear the music? Come on, don't you hear the music? The monster's coming.
I hear it. I hear it. I totally. You know that music. I will say,
Yeah.
real quick, just a random question that I saw from my friend Aaron in the chat, and we'll get to some other questions soon. But one of the questions was, what was the last album that you purchased?
The last album I purchased was um I I can't recall, and I know it's I purchased more recent, but I can tell you some of them. There's a great bass player and vocalist named Scott Mulvihill.
Yeah.
I bought his record right away when I first heard about it. Somebody recommended it to me, and I went out and bought it. Oh, you know what? It was a jazz record, and I can't recall the name that someone told me Ron Carter had played on. Great
Cool.
jazz. Um, and I do know recently I bought Nefertiti also.
Ooh, on
Which
vinyl?
no, not on vinyl. I bought it on iTunes
Nice.
just
But
to have it on my computer because so I could listen down here in the studio. I took my vinyl player that was down here where I am and took it upstairs into the living room. But I spend so much time down here that I want to hear some of my favorites also.
Well, this is
But
really
that was
interesting
one.
because you and Steve Bailey have been talking in some of your bass hangs specifically about that album Nefertiti, and I know that's like one of Steve's go-to albums, and he keeps talking about Nefertiti, 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 and you going out and buying Nefertiti on iTunes is exactly what you're telling us to do, right? You got a track, you got an album, you have something where you're like, wow, I'm really getting into this, even though obviously you knew the album Nefertiti from way back. You're
Hmm.
like, I need to reinvest in this. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the cool thing about these webinars that we do, every month, we were doing them every week, starting in April. We did them every week until school opened up. And with Steve running the bass department at Berklee College of Music, he doesn't have the time to contact people every week and put it together. And neither do I. So, we
Sure.
do them maybe every other week. I think this one was maybe we had 3 weeks off, and that's the longest we've had off between a webinar since early April. But I meet new people every webinar, and now it's rare that I've never heard of the person. That's rare.
Right.
But there's people that I haven't met, and I'm a supporter. And I'm taking notes every time, writing down what they did, what they say, looking it
Mm-hmm.
up on the YouTube as or whatever, finding out about them, and then I want to support them.
Yes. Yes.
And it does matter, and it does help, when we support each other. And I was listening to our friend Bob Heminger has a radio show, every Sunday on one of the Colorado radio stations. I forget the numbers, K something, but he has a show.
WBOB.
It's not that, but it should be.
It
But
should
the
be.
show is called Close Enough for Jazz. So you can research that. But he played a song last Sunday that was beautiful song. And then the bass playing was like, whoa. So I waited for the show to end and I texted him. I was like, who was that? You know, he ends up texting me back. That was John Clayton. And I'm laughing because I'm
From
in a
you
group.
too? No, that's Adam Clayton.
No, that's Adam Clayton. John Clayton is a legend. You know, in the jazz world, if you're a jazz bassist, you know John Clayton, right? And John Clayton, I'm in a meeting with him every week. And so I immediately text John Clayton and said, John, guess what? I heard this song. I should have known it was you, but I asked my friend, who's that amazing bassist? And his name came up. Those kind of things go a long way.
Cool.
You know, because especially with a bass player or whatever instrument where we're in the background, our job is to make people want to know your name. And then when someone reaches out and says, man, who was that on bass, or who was that on whatever, you know, rhythm guitar, you know, so I know that made him feel good, but his playing made me feel so good. It's like, wow, you know, so
Yeah.
I want to know more.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just that kind of person. I want to know more. You know.
Well, I mean, but I think that's why you're a very curious guy, and that's why you approach music in your own unique way. And I think it always goes hand in hand. Listen to anybody who has a unique voice on an instrument, and I can pretty much guarantee they have their own unique voice in life that is just a little bit left of center. And you know, they've got loved ones saying, "Oh yeah, she does her own thing, going her own way." So that's
Yeah.
cool. And to answer Aaron's question, my last album that I purchased was Steve Bailey, Carolina. So Danette, there you go. Steve Bailey,
Yeah.
Carolina. It is good. It is incredible. It is, every song is just stunningly beautiful. And that
Yeah.
Willie Nelson duo, ooh.
Yeah, it's a collection of duets with Steve's bass and another artist. So you got Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull, right? Becca Stevens singing the title track, Carolina. Willie Nelson, Howard Levy, Dennis Chambers. So many greats on this record.
Yeah,
and you get to hear these people represented in a way you've never heard them before. No one's ever heard Willie Nelson singing with solo, beautiful fretless 6-string bass. All right. And so there's so much room for Willie Nelson's voice.
Yeah.
And because it's framed differently, you're allowed to hear it differently. And it's just a great record. It really is.
So good. It's so good. I think just the way that it makes music vibrate to my ears, just it gives me the warm fuzzies. It's my current warm fuzzy album. I have been enjoying it very, very, very much.
Yeah, Steve Bailey, the record called Carolina.
Yeah, definitely check it out. And I saw Jewel put in the comments the link to Amanda Gorman's website. So if you want to support Amanda Gorman and get her book, go to her website and check that out for sure.
Beautiful.
I wanted to ask you a little bit more about music and specifically vibration. And I think sometimes when we talk about music and we talk about music as vibration, that can sound very woo-woo and very, new agey. But when you really break it down, that's all it is, right? Music is vibration and everything is vibration. As in, this mouse right here, even though it's static, if you looked at this under an electron microscope, you would see a lattice structure of atoms all vibrating in place. They're not still. Everything is motion. Now, with that said, can you tell us some of your perspectives on how different instruments make the air vibrate in different and unique ways? Thus, different instruments help us express emotion in completely novel ways depending on that instrument.
Sure. And the same way different vitamins can make some people feel a certain way, different foods, you have your taste. That all, whether we realize it or not, has to do with vibrations. So one of the easiest ways of explaining it that I think allows people to understand it is when we hear a note, let's say A, the note A at a certain octave,
Mm-hmm.
right? We in our Western world, we tune to what we call A440. That means when we play the note A, it vibrates 440 times per second. If anything vibrates 440 times per second, it's going to produce the pitch A. And we happen to tune our instruments to that. So it might be a tuning fork. I might have a strobe tuner, or someone, the bassoon might play a note, or the oboe play a note, and I tune to that. But our standard in the Western world is A440. That's what we call it. But what it means is that it vibrates 440 times per second. Okay? If I cut that 440 in half, it's 220. It's the same pitch, but down an octave. So
Right.
if I had A, now I've got A. 110 would be A.
Right.
55 would be, 27 and a half. If we keep going, our ears will not hear it as pitch. Still the same note, but now we'll hear it like this. And it now becomes a tempo. Now, to measure that pitch, I don't use a tuner, I use a metronome.
Mm.
And because I don't hear it as pitch, it's too slow to hear it as pitch, I call it rhythm. If it keeps cutting down, now I can't even hear it as rhythm. Now I need a watch to measure it. Same stuff. Then I need a calendar.
Wow.
Then I need, or if it goes higher, 880, 16, now it's going to appear as light or a
Light.
color or a, right. But it is all the same thing.
Wow.
So even, okay, we have an A. The maybe the next note lower is an A flat. It's still an A. It's just vibrating at a different speed, so it sounds like a different pitch.
Hmm.
So I may not call it an A. We just made up the name A so that we can all agree of what we're talking about. But what we're really talking about is something moving that we've agreed to call a vibration.
Man.
But life is movement.
Uh-huh.
If it stops moving, which it can't do, not on Earth, maybe in another realm, before or after we die, I'm not even going to get into all of that, but on Earth, things move. Even when we think, we call it death. A leaf falls to the ground. It's still moving. It decays. It becomes something else. And then new leaves grow every year, right? That's what vibration is. That's what life is. Life is vibration. Life is movement, right? And so the same way, if we get in the ocean, the water's not still. It's moving. But because of your ability, your body mass, your skill, maybe your mind frame, your fear or whatever, that movement of the ocean or the water is going to have your body acting a certain way that will be different than mine.
Mm.
Even though it's the same ocean.
Because we're different densities and different heights and different mass.
And different mindsets.
Mm. Now, how do you take all of everything you just said and apply that to mindset?
Through practice and repetition. That's what it comes down to. If you want to get better at something, repeat it over and over. So if you want to be in a bad mood, watch the news over and over. They're going to give you things to feel bad about.
Mm.
Not the news's fault. Right? It's our fault. Right? I heard the saying that if you hang out with 4 millionaires, you'll become the 5th one. Because you're developing that mindset. If you hang out with 4 broke people, you'll become the 5th one. Right? It's what you surround yourself with. But through training, okay? Through training is really repetition. It's doing something over and over, right? And you can add acquiring the knowledge of what to do over and over into that. But you get better at whatever it is you set your mind to. All you got to do is repeat it. Now, there are things that you can add to the repetition process to magnify it, to make your repetition more potent. The same way you can take vitamins or medicine to make your immune system more potent or whatever. There are things that you can do that will make whatever you repeat more potent. There are things you can do. I don't really mean things you can take like drugs or anything. I'm not against that, but it's not me.
No, I hear you. I hear you.
But there are things you can do to make it more potent. But to get back to the original thing, what we are talking about is vibrations, right? And what I recommend anyone out there listening, if you want to see this, if you want to see it, go on YouTube or something like that and type in sound and sand or vibrations and sand or something like that.
Yeah,
and you'll see
what's
them.
it called?
Well, there's a name for it, but the easiest way to just sand and sound, and you'll find it. But someone takes like a metal plate or some kind of plate, they pour sand on it, then they put a speaker underneath it, and they just play a pitch to vibrate that metal plate, and you'll see the sand form the shape of that note.
In patterns and all these octagons and hexagons, and it's crazy.
Yes.
You have like, oh, we're gonna start with A, and it's like it like busts out in this one mandala, and then it drops to a B flat. It's like it totally changes.
It immediately changes.
Cymatics. That's it.
Cymatic. Yes, cymatic. But here's the thing. I've got a book on my shelf over there that shows the same thing being done in water. The sound hitting the water and the waves, and they put light on it so you can see the waves. Same shapes.
Right. It's like Tina McReynolds just said in the chat, it's like snowflakes. And I think most of us by now have seen that Japanese researcher who did the experiment of yelling at water and then freezing it and giving blessings to water and freezing it and seeing what the crystalline lattice structure looks like when the vibrations that we're putting out are negative versus the vibrations that we're putting out are positive. So I think that really ties it back to what you're talking about. It's all about vibrations. What vibrations. Are we putting out?
It's vibrations. And then remember, once you put them out, you can't get them back. Right? You can change them. Right? In other words, if I splash the water, I can't stop it from moving.
Right.
I can put something in there and change the vibration, but can't stop it once you start it. So I really want to be, I said this in the first book, I want to be aware of what vibrations I'm putting out there. Right. But here's the interesting thing about the sand on the plate. You have to remember this. This is what's cool. Because of gravity, we're seeing those shapes flat. Okay. Sound is not as affected by gravity as mass is. So these shapes that you see in the sand are not flat. Okay? They've done these same experiments in space. If you do them in water, things that move in water are affected by gravity, but slower. So the same thing done in water, what happens is the shapes are not flat, they're spherical.
Wow.
And done in a gravity-less... And done in a gravity less, I don't know how to say that, a
weightless.
Place with no gravity, it looks like solar systems. It looks like galaxies. So when you see the solar system from way back and you see all these shapes, now science is saying, hey, we're recognizing that there's a pitch going through the solar system and it's right around a B flat. And that's what might be holding the solar system in place.
Yeah, and every planet has its own frequency that it emits based on its orbit, its mass, its size, and all of that. And I think I shared with you, maybe it was like a week or so ago, I sent you that clip of what it looks like with the sun traveling in its own orbit in the Milky Way. And so it takes something like 250,000 years or 250 million years for us to make one full revolution. And we think about the solar system on a plane, right? You have the sun in the middle and then all these little planes. But because the sun is moving, you have all of these planets moving around. It was just this big Fibonacci spiral, and I think we see things so linearly in life that all of this is a really good reminder to us that it's just so important to peel back the layers, do digging, think with our brains, think critically, think outside the box, things that feel like, ooh, that's kind of out there. Great, lean into it. Not like QAnon out there, like don't lean into that. But like music and vibration and like all of this real almost like ethereal stuff that we've lost touch of as a culture, that's become so materialized and not spiritualized.
The people who have moved the world forward have done exactly that. I remember learning the story in elementary school. I can't remember who it was, Benjamin Franklin. Who was supposed to have discovered electricity and was flying a kite in the rain,
Oh
lightning
yeah,
storm?
Ben Franklin, right?
Ben Franklin, right? So imagine you lived back in those days, hundreds of years ago, or whenever it was. And there's this little kid. I don't even know if the story is true, but let's just pretend we're back there and we see a kid. It's a thunderstorm, lightning, and there's a kid out there trying to fly a kite, right? Now our parents will be saying, "Oh, that's little Benny. Don't go out and play with little Benny. Let him do his thing." But it's because of that slightly different thinking that we can sit here talking to each other across the continent.
Right.
And those people out there can be watching and listening. Electricity.
Right.
It took that slightly out of the box thinking for this to become normal.
Right.
What we're doing right now, we used to only see on the Jetsons or Star Trek. It's now normal.
That's right.
Right? Star Trek had flip phones. That's outdated. Right? Flip phone. We don't have flip phones anymore. Right? We have surpassed Star Trek. The Jetsons had walkways, the cartoon. You stand on the sidewalk and the sidewalk moved. That's old school.
Right.
Right? So it takes those people to dare to think differently. To dare to think differently. Well, the thing is that however we got here, we were given our own fingerprints. Everybody, I don't know how many people are on the planet, but everyone has a different fingerprint. And I don't know how many humans there's been in the history of human, but everyone's been different. How is that possible? But what that means is you're already different.
Mm.
So to think differently, really, you just have to think for yourself.
Right. Right.
And be yourself. It doesn't mean stop listening. Right? To become better at being you, you see what and recognize what everybody else does. But it doesn't mean what everybody else is doing is better than yours. It's just different.
Hmm.
So in the quest, especially in music, everyone's looking for their voice. And it's always hard to find because it's in you already. There's an old native story where the gods came together in a native. You may have heard Richard Cleveland tell this story at one of our camps, but he tells the story where the gods were trying to figure out the best place to hide, the jewel, the gift of life. Where do you hide it? Well, we could hide it in the mountains. Oh no, man will eventually tear down the mountains. They'll find it there. Well, we could hide it in the deepest parts of the ocean. No, man will go down to the deepest parts of the ocean. Well, let's hide it on the moon. No, man will eventually go to the moon. They came down. Well, let's just hide it inside. That's the place they're afraid to go.
I wasn't at any camps where Richard Cleveland was talking, so I missed that. And that's really powerful. Hopefully one day, post-COVID, when we're all able to get back together, I'll be back at camp and we'll make it happen. Also, if anybody out there is watching, which I know we got a bunch of people out there watching, I encourage you to keep that in your head. Obviously, it's still times of COVID, and we got to be safe. We got to be healthy. We got to keep each other safe, and we got to keep each other healthy. But when this is all over and this is behind us, and we will come out the other end, and I believe we're going to come out better and stronger and smarter from this in a lot of ways. And I hope we learn the lessons that this pandemic is teaching us. That's a whole other conversation. But the point of what I'm trying to bring up is you mentioned earlier that there's so many different ways that musicians need to put themselves out there in this gig economy in order to not just reach people but be able to put food on your table and put your
Yeah.
kids through college, like real tangible things that I think people can lose sight of, right? When somebody becomes famous, it's almost like they're like not a real person anymore. But you know what? You're a real person. You have a real family. You know, in your bathroom, you have real toilet paper, right? You know, Margaret Thatcher, the Queen Elizabeth, like they're all real people who have toilet paper in their bathroom. The point is that we all have things that we have to do to be able to survive. And like you said, because of the flip of the modality of we used to pay for music no problem and TV was free, your three channels, right? And now we pay for TV, but we don't pay for music. So yourself and other professional musicians are forced to, and I know that sounds like a negative connotation, but in this way I don't mean it that way. You're forced to expand what your creative output is. And I think one of the things that you do is so unique and incredible to any musician and any human, even if you're not a musician, and that's offering camps. And I want you to tell us just a little nugget about why you think something like attending a camp in person. I know there's virtual camps, which is a great connection right now, but eventually in person, why is attending a VIX camp something that has value beyond just, oh, I got to hang out with Victor Wooten for the weekend? Tell
Sure.
me.
Well, I would say attending any camp or any program like that is valuable because you're there with like-minded people. And that usually makes anything more powerful if you allow it to. Like if I trying to push my car because it ran out of gas, I'd have to work really hard to do it by myself. But if I had some friends helping me, not only does it become easier, it becomes fun.
Mm.
Unless I get behind the car and say, "Oh, I'm not as good at pushing cars as everyone else. I'm not as strong." And if I freak out like that, it can become overwhelming. But if I say, "No, I'm not as strong, but my little bit does help," then I can give my all, even if it's a little. So a lot of people get that, "Oh, I'm not as good," when they get surrounded by the like-minded people. But
Yeah.
just know that what you have is enough. You've got your fingerprint.
Mm.
Right? You've got something, even if it's that much, it might be that much that the world needs. Right? Like Horton Hears a Who just needed that last voice to say, "We are here."
Yeah.
Right? That
Yeah.
little last voice. We just need that. And it might be you that pushes us over the tide to where we're supposed to be. So the difference, I believe, in my camps, and I say my loosely because it's not just me, right? Um, is that it's based off of a different principle. The main principle being my mom's quote, "What does the world need with just another good musician? We have plenty." She says, "What the world needs are good people." So I know that people are coming because of Victor Wooten, the musician, but they're leaving knowing who they are.
Hmm.
And that's the number one thing I'm looking for. And that's the number one thing that my mom loved up until her death. At
Hmm.
every camp she could be there. And I know there's some people out there, I see names that people that did get to meet my mom, and she would just love to see people find themselves. Because in finding yourself, you find each other, and vice versa. And then when you grow and that good person grows, because what happens at our camps is people let down their guard. We first get there, everyone's a little nervous.
Sure.
Am I good enough? Is anyone as good as me? Or whatever. And we have some things built in that we do to make sure that goes away. And it does.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes away rather quickly. If we start a camp on Tuesday, most camps start on Tuesday. A 6-day camp starts on Tuesday. By the end of the day, Wednesday, or probably by lunchtime Wednesday, we see it as instructors or whatever you want to call it. We sit back and look at people at lunch just hanging out they never met before. And this might be the guy that you'd cross the street if you saw him walking down the street at night. but you're sitting there hugging them at lunch at Vic's camps.
Yeah.
That's the best part. And you come there saying, whoa, there's Victor Wooten. There's Victor Wooten. But by the half day of Wednesday, nobody cares about me, right? I'm just another person there. I smell just as bad as everyone else. I'm eating at the same dinner table with the same food. My hair, the hair I have left is all over the place. And no one cares, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that I have diminished in stature. Everyone else realizes they're at the same place as me.
Well, that's one of the things that I really love. I think one of the most lasting lessons that I've really learned from you is that idea of, if somebody is giving you compliments and somebody is praising you for anything that you do in life that is your thing, if somebody is giving you praise, it's so easy and common for humans to say, oh, no, like, yeah, thanks, but no, right? And we knock ourselves off of the pedestal that somebody put us up on. But you say, don't let people knock you off of the pedestal. Bring them up with you. Yeah. And I love that. And I think that's what the world needs right now, right? Yeah. We're so busy knocking each other off of our different pedestals and finding how we're different and fighting. We have to, it's not working, right? We got to come back to the love. And I think, oftentimes people think of you, Victor Wooten, the bass player, and they think of, the flashy pyrotechnics and all of the unbelievable techniques that you learned from your brother Reggie. And those techniques are amazing because you changed the way people view the bass guitar and how it's approached, and you added a whole new set of vernacular to a very young instrument, which is a really cool thing. So mazel tov. That's really cool. But maybe because I never felt the aptitude or ability to double thumb and pluck and tap, or as my dad used to call it, the ham and cluck. He's like, oh yeah, Victor, he's got the ham and cluck, right? My dad, I think he's watching.
Great. I love it.
So for me, I loved your music and I thought you were a really cool bass player, but I loved how when you had songs that had words, it was always about love. Always about love. So when I think of Victor Wooten, the musician, my first thought isn't pyrotechnics. My first thought is love. And I think many people see that from you. So what are we putting out there? And your vibrations are vibrations of love. And I appreciate that.
Well, the thing, I appreciate that too. Thank you, Brandon. But that tells me, what you just said tells me more about you than it does about me.
What do you mean?
Because you can only see what you see. Right? And what you see is what you are, not what I am. That's the whole fallacy, the myth. That's right. We blame or blame or what's the opposite?
Project.
Project. We praise or blame the thing when it's all coming from here. Right? You're looking at me as a camera. Right? You're looking at me through a camera. If the picture was grainy, right, it wouldn't make any sense for you to come over here and wipe off me to try to get the picture clearer. You got to clean the lens. So when we look at life and life looks grainy or dirty, we want to blame life, not realizing that our lens is what we're looking through. So when you see me as beautiful, that's your lens. You're the camera, right? And why in the world would I ever want to stop you from seeing that?
That's cool. That's beautiful, Victor. Thank you.
Thank you. But it's the truth, Brandon.
Yeah.
It's more than beautiful. It's the truth.
No,
you put me on a pedestal. You're telling me about you. When you criticize me, you're telling me about you. So I put the criticism and the compliment in the same box. You're talking about you. I appreciate both. I'm just glad that you talked to me. But if you really think of yourself that way, my heart goes out and I want to help you.
Hmm.
And here's the example that makes it clear. You play for kids a lot, Brandon.
Yep.
You play your bass, you play your sansula, your kalimba, rhythms. Imagine you're playing for a second grade class and you play your song.
I did a
You
third
do,
grade class this morning.
okay, let's say third grade class.
Okay.
And you play your 30-minute show and everyone is like, Mr. Brandon, thank you for the music. We really like your music, Mr. Brandon, after it's over. But one kid comes over and says, yo, Brando, over that dominant chord, you played a major 7 on that. I liked it. I liked how you raised the 7 on that. And then, when you went, because that's supposed to be Mixolydian, but you added a major 7
I
and made it,
see.
and then is that kid talking about you, telling you about you, or is it telling you about him?
You're right. Now I know that this kid's into theory and he's listening with this lens
Bingo.
or she's listening with that lens. I hear it.
Bingo.
Yeah.
That kid is telling you about him. So why in the world would you diminish that and say, no, I didn't do all, I wasn't that good. I wasn't. And so now he just goes, okay, Mr. Brando, thank you for your music. And now he's back with the other kids. No, you want that kid to raise up there, stay up there. So any compliment or criticism you get, I have no desire to change it. I say, thank you. Thank you for telling me. Because if you took the time to tell me good or bad, you paid attention. Right? The people who aren't worth the comment, that's when I say, okay, I got to do something else. Because I'm out here to get you, I'm out here to have a career. I'm a bass player without you. I don't have a career as a bass player without you. So I want you to tell me something. Because my career is dependent upon you. If you didn't like it, let me know. Because it means something to me. If my career is dependent upon what you see, what you hear, shouldn't I want to know? Or do I only want to hear that you liked it?
Yeah, but can't that be problematic in a world where now it's not just, hey, Victor, that was a great show. I noticed that you played that song. I really like it when you play the fast version and not the ballad version. It's not just that anymore. Now you got trolls all over the internet that are just trying to knock people down. And I think this goes back to your point because that shows about them.
Right. Who are they really talking about? Them. It's their camera lens that they're looking through. Okay. And they've got to put it off on someone because they don't know how to fix themselves. Okay. So what that does for me is it tells me where my work is needed. Okay. Right. Imagine if everyone just told you how good you were and that's all you heard. And that's what happens. My brother Roy calls it the Elvis treatment. Because if we do a show, if we come to your town and we play at the Jazz Alley in Seattle,
yep, you got it.
We're going to get the Elvis treatment at the end of the night. Everyone's going to come up and tell us what they liked. You get used to that. The person I'm listening the most to is the one that tells me what he didn't like. That's the one that stands out.
Right.
I'm saying, okay, whoa, wait a minute. Now, it takes a lot of effort to not let that pierce your heart and you bleed out and you that takes practice. That takes everything, but you can learn it. You can learn to appreciate someone even when they're not honest. Right? You can listen to it and say, okay, there might be some truth to that. How can I get to that person next show, next time? Even if it's not that person, maybe there's someone else. Maybe I do need to slow down and not play as fast.
Right.
So I learn from all of it. And if you only pay attention to the stuff you like, you're missing half the picture. Life is not just what you like. Okay, that's what we call yin yang. To have the stuff you like, there has to be the stuff you don't like either. So I am receptive of all of it. Okay. Yeah. Now there are the trolls, the people who are just trying to be mean.
Sure.
Okay. Now at that point, that challenges me to see through it and to see their pain.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
because it'll be easy for me to troll them back and just fight back.
Sure.
But if I can see, man, this person's been hurt so bad somewhere that they think the best way to fix their problems is to hurt me. And my point is, if you want to hurt someone, let it be me. I'd rather you hurt me than that person.
Mm.
Right? And think about any hero. You can read about any religion, the world leaders, whether it's Dr. Martin Luther King or someone current, or that little girl, the girl who read the poem,
Amanda Gorman, yeah.
or anybody. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't go just to people who liked them.
Right.
They went into the trenches of where they were needed. And they faced the fire, some all the way to the death. Okay? Not everybody's willing to do that.
No.
Not everybody's willing to. So if all I got to do is put up with your criticism,
right?
Dr. Martin Luther King, he was facing life and death every day he went out the house. Right? Every day fighting for his people. And he said, I may not get there with you, but his thing is, I'm going to help you and I'm going to make sure you get there. As my mom would say, that's what I'm talking about.
That's beautiful.
And I can't even take your criticism. You don't like my bass plan and that ruins my life? Oh, my goodness. Come on.
Well, it goes back to that adage of hurt people. So, when I view what happened in the Capitol, and there was a lot of hatred bubbling over in the Capitol 2 weeks ago, and I see the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers or whatever, loony white nationalists they are. I see them as people that are hurting, and I see them as people that have suffered in their own lives. But I also, yin yang, I also recognize the unbelievable amount of privilege that they have to be able to ransack the Capitol and then be able to be escorted out. Like, what are you talking about? You don't have anything in life. You have so much privilege. Nobody's done what you did since 1814. You want to talk about privilege? Like, come on. What are you talking about? You don't have things. Get it out of here.
We can get into a whole nother story there. This will become a whole nother Facebook Live here.
That's right.
That's we open up that can of worms. But yeah, there's some privilege going on.
Hurt people.
There's some privilege going on. Yeah, that's why they say when it rains, it pours.
Sure.
If your camera lens is dirty, you're gonna take dirty pictures.
I want to ask you about kids. You were talking about kids coming up these days. What are some obstacles or barriers that you think that kids are facing these days? You're a father, you see your kids, you see them going through life, and it's different than how you came up. What are some of those obstacles or barriers that you think people are facing, stopping them from feeling like, I got this?
It's because in most cases their parents are screwed up. To be blunt, where's their examples? Their examples of us fighting each other, storming the Capitol. From the president down.
Right.
Not willing to say these white supremacists need to stand down, need to stop. We need to, from the top down. Kids are mirrors.
Yeah.
They follow example. Yep. They have bad examples. And not only that, we celebrate the bad examples. If you want to be famous, do something horrible. We will plaster your name everywhere. Right? You'll get a TV show if you just do some horrible stuff. If you criticize people, but you got a lot of money, we'll give you a TV show.
Right.
People that do nothing.
Right.
Get a show. Right? So we celebrate the people you see on TV the most are the people who did the worst things. Okay? The music we pump up the most are the ones with the worst lyrics. The front page news is the worst thing that happened in the country.
Interesting. I see where you're going.
What are kids supposed to do?
Yeah.
They're mirrors.
Yeah.
So kids have to be smarter than us. They have to be. because we are not doing it, Brandon. As an adult society, we are not doing it. As far as
So
we
true.
want this to be better, no way.
Right.
Now, not everybody. And I still believe that the majority are doing it. But we won't show you them.
That's right. Everything, right? Everything you just said, all of the negative is highlighted in our society. I never really thought about it that way. That was a
Sure.
really, really astute observation of
We
how
celebrate it, Brandon. We
we do.
celebrate,
Hmm.
right? I mean, it's just really amazing that they will talk about the worst stuff all night,
Right.
over and over.
Right.
The video games that are the biggest ones are the worst. The way,
Right. All
if
the shooter
humans
games.
acted that way, what are we training the new
Right. Grand
generation?
Theft Auto. Like, come on now. Like, how is this a
Yeah.
thing? So I want to
Fortnite.
see a video game where love is the goal, and like I can imagine kids of today seeing what dystopian world they're growing up in. I want to see that flip where so much of what we start to put out is in the mainstream love based and kindness based and compassion based, because if we're going to survive as a species, what we're doing and what we've been doing is not going to cut it for our survival. That's for sure. But like you
Not at
said,
all.
that's a whole
Not at
other
all.
can of
But
worms.
that, to me, that's what it is.
I,
Us
I want
parents, us adults are not doing it as a whole.
as a whole. But
As a whole.
individually, you are, because we're here. We're putting out this love together. And I think that's
Right.
why you and I connected so deeply, is that we're both trying to amplify the frequency of love in the world. And we do it in our own unique ways. And light attracts light. And, we're trying to amplify everybody's light.
And we're doing it.
Yeah.
And we're doing it little by little. But the thing is that we have to do it on our own.
Mm.
There's no, you know, government supplement for what we do. Uh, that's one thing I'm a big fan of Oprah
Mm.
Winfrey,
Mm-hmm.
because oh yeah, Oprah's got a lot of money, but she used to do these what they call trash shows, where my sister slept with with my brother's whatever. She used to do those shows,
I
like
remember that.
like these, the ones that still exist. She finally said, "Wait a minute, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm
Mm.
only going to do shows designed to help people, especially women
Mm-hmm.
and even people of color." And guess what? She did it. Did she have the government, the support? No. She had to do it on her own. She went the opposite way. I'm only doing positive stuff. And if I've got to get my own TV channel to do it, I'm going to do that.
Mm.
Fortunately, she had the money to do it. So I'm a
Right.
fan of hers
Yeah, me too. I
for
like her a
that.
lot.
For that.
Yeah.
Amazing that she did that. So
Mm-hmm.
there's people out there doing it. But you know, if someone celebrates you for all the goodness that you do, it's going to be an individual, someone that has their own program and comes in and says, this guy's doing something great, going to celebrate them, right?
Yeah.
It's not the norm. It's not a part of our culture, the way it is in native cultures, the people that still live in tribes. Music is a
Right.
part of it. Celebrating the goodness of people is a part of it. They're all treated equal. Yes, they have counsel and the elders, right? The parents of the kids go hunting and do all the activity stuff while their bodies are young, and the kids are raised by the grandparents who know stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We got kids having kids and trying to raise kids these days.
That's right.
And
Mm-hmm.
while they're still trying to get out and party and everything. And I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying it as I see it. It's what it is.
Mm.
And we can let the outcome tell you whether it's good or not. Right?
It,
Kids didn't storm the Capitol. It wasn't a bunch of third graders. It wasn't your third graders that stormed the Capitol.
field trip.
Brandon, it was their parents.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay.
Full circle. I hear it. I hear it. Well, then let me ask you, if you could tell your former self one thing, what would you tell yourself?
And I would tell them everything my parents were telling me. And I'm not, and in no way am I trying to say I got it all together. But I don't think I could tell my kids anything better than my parents told us. Right? My parents said, "You guys are special. Right? You're already successful. The rest of the world just doesn't know it yet." Mom would say, "You are better than no one, but no one's better than you." They used to have to make us memorize these powerful statements and things like that. My brothers used to have to write speeches, powerful speeches, and then go and recite them in competitions. Now I'm 5, 6 years old, and I'm seeing my brothers memorizing and practicing in the mirror, and I don't know why they got to go do this. But now all my brothers are great speakers, not afraid to speak their mind in a world where you don't expect, and this might offend people, but I'm sorry, in a world where you don't expect Black people to be able to speak like that.
That's right.
Now you got to think, we were growing up in the 50s and 60s.
Mm-hmm.
We were growing up in the 50s and 60s, and our parents knew what we were facing. My dad fought in the Korean War for a country that wouldn't fight back for him. So our parents wanted to make sure we knew who we were, regardless of what you thought. So they told us the right stuff.
If everybody had a Mama Wooten and a Papa Wooten in their lives, I think we'd be in a different place. And I mean that. I mean that literally. I mean, if every kid growing up had parents that said, "You are enough. You are everything. You are beautiful, and you are part of this amazing melange of people. You're not better than anybody else. Nobody's better than you." And I'm grateful that you get to share those lessons with us.
That's my life right now. Music just gets me in the door. Right? Check this out, Brandon. We're kids, 5 little boys. Mom would say, "Hey, everybody, come here, boys, come here, boys."
Yep.
And we would all line up around Mom. "What, Mom?" She said, "If they took all the children in the world, if they took all the kids and they drew a big circle, and if they put all the kids inside that circle and they told the parents, 'You have to choose kids again,' Mom would say, 'Who do you think I would choose?' And we would say, 'You choose us, Mama. You would choose us, Mom.' And Roy said, 'Yeah, you choose us, but you have to hurry.'"
Right? Ooh, that's good.
Because he knew how special we were. He knew everybody's going to want these good kids.
That's beautiful.
But can you imagine a kid thinking that powerfully about himself?
No.
And my mom made sure we knew that in ways we didn't even know what she was doing. Now I've got 4 kids. I see it clearly.
It's beautiful.
Clearly, man.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. So the next book, after this book, the next one is on my mom and dad's quotes, the things they put in our head every day.
That's amazing. And I know myself and anybody out there watching who's been to the Wooten Woods knows many of these Wootenisms, and they're powerful stuff. But you know what? It also goes back to another thing that you gifted to me when you first met me. And let's see. And I was first showing you my Sansula, and I was like, "Oh, look, I play it in this way, and I have these magnets, and I change all the tuning." And I was like, "But I'm really scared because, you know, this is really unique, and I don't think anybody else is doing it, and I'm so scared that somebody's going to steal it." And you said, "Brandon, your idea is not yours and yours alone. It's out there in the universe for anybody to pick up on." And that was a really liberating feeling to realize, yeah, he's right. And it let me put my ego away, and it let me just lean into, I need to just do what I do. But what was funny is after you said all that, and I was like, yeah, you're right. Your brother Reggie was like, "Nah, man, keep that on lock right now. That's good. Somebody's gonna steal that. Don't show that to nobody."
Yeah, everybody's different, you know, and to me that's the good thing about it, is that you have choices. You know, but my thought is, what's more important, making the instrument better or getting credit for it? And most of us would rather have the credit. For me, I've grown enough to where I don't need the credit. And believe it or not, Reggie's really like that too. All this stuff I get credit for, Reggie.
Mm.
Spinning the bass, double thumbing, tapping, all this stuff. Reggie sits in the back. I mean, all these animals as leaders, Toby,
Tobin,
whatever. First time he saw that
Tobin
slapping
Abasi,
stuff,
Tobin Abasi.
he learned that. He saw that in Reggie's bedroom. That's where he got it, because he was hanging out with one of Reggie's students, and the student brought him to Reggie's house. And if you come through Nashville, if you're a pretty good player, you're gonna end up at Reggie's house.
Right.
Right. So there's a lot of players out there. Otil Burbridge, we were living in Virginia at the time. That's how we knew each other. But there's a ton of them, but they go through Reggie. And he's not looking for credit. So I understand where Reggie was coming from with that. And I think main thing with Reggie is he wants to make sure you get the credit for it.
Mm.
Even though he's not that way, but he does care that much about you.
That's beautiful. And I appreciated that. And I appreciated the contrast between you two. And it just let me find my own thing. I have a couple of questions that some people were asking, and I want to get to them. I know we've been hanging out for a while, so I don't want to keep you too long. But Danette wanted to know, are you teaching lessons these days?
Yes, I am. For one, I do teach for Berklee College of Music, and I do that a week every month. So I'm usually in Boston a week every month, but now it's online. But because it's online and my longtime good friend Steve Bailey is my boss, it's hard to even say that without laughing. He knows he can call on me any day of the week to come into Berklee. So I'm there a lot more now. But I do teach lessons. I enjoy teaching groups more than I do one-on-one. But I'll tell people, and I'm going to be straightforward with you. I do, and I will do one-on-one lessons over Zoom or Skype or whatever it is. But if you contact me, and I'm on all the social media, Twitter, blah, blah, blah. If you contact me, I'm going to send you to Danette, who asked the question.
Right.
She's my manager. Because I don't want to deal with setting things up and schedule. I'm going to send you to her. She's going to charge you a lot of money. And if you pay it, we'll do it.
Yeah, great.
Because it takes an hour of my day away from my kids, and you're going to get stuff you've never gotten before. It's going to be good stuff. If it's worth it to you, because I'm not touring.
Right.
I'm not going to give it away.
Yeah.
Right. Again, I've got 2 kids in college for the next 6 years. Yeah. For the next 6 years or 4 years, I'm going to have 2 kids in college. Right. and there's no records being sold. Right. So I'm going to send you to Danette, and I record for people too. You want a bass track on their record, but in many cases, people are sending songs that any bass player could play. They just want my name on it. I understand that. I love the fact that I get Bootsy Collins' name on my record too. I love that kind of stuff. I understand it, but I'm going to make you pay for it. Especially if I listen to the song, I say anybody could play this. I know the person just wants my name. I'm going to pay for it. So I will send you to Danette. I'll do it, but I'll send you to Danette, and she will charge you a lot. And if you want to do it, then we'll do it. But that way, that's also my way of making sure, because a lot of people realize that musicians aren't making money. What people don't realize is neither are the managers, neither are the tour managers, neither is the sound guy, neither is the crew, the person who just sets up the amps, changes the strings. They're not making money either.
Right.
There's so many people. I mean, the chain is long. So this way, my manager gets some money. I've got my tour manager, and my sound guy is running the shipping of my store right now.
Is that Jonathan? He's doing that right now?
Well, not Jonathan, but Jack.
Jack is, okay.
Jack. He's running the shipping of the store. And not to get into my whole business, but I make sure he gets a commission of what we sell.
Good, yeah.
That way, if we sell a lot and we do these things and we have a good paid, a good month, he gets more money. He's not on tour. But, so there's a lot of people, believe it or not, whose income is dependent upon what we might call my brand. And my brand is at home right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we have to be smart and find ways. And one of the ways is through teaching. Somebody wants me to teach, I give them Danette's email. She books it, she gets a good percentage of that. If I
Great.
do a recording, a lesson. And the cool thing for me these days, Brandon, is because of the first book, I'm doing a lot of teaching and speaking to non-musicians.
Hmm.
Right in February, as COVID was just starting to hit, we knew it was coming. I took a chance and I went to Brazil. I got hired to go to Brazil without a bass and talk. But all my son Cameron's soccer heroes are in Brazil. And I got a good friend in Brazil who knows all of those heroes. So I took Cameron to Brazil, and I've taken all my kids when they turned 12, I took them all on a trip out of the country. I hadn't taken I hadn't taken Cameron yet because now all the kids are older. He's into so much stuff. And now they're not all homeschooled anymore. So it was not as easy to take them out of school. But I took him out of school and took him to Brazil. I didn't know who I was talking to until I got there. And he had me talk. It was a robotics company, or I'm sorry, a robotics festival, a countrywide robotics festival. So thousands of kids and their teachers and all their robot experiments and car races that they built and stuff. And this guy had me come and talk for 30 minutes to the teachers because he liked my book, The Music Lesson.
Wow. And that had nothing to do with you holding your bass in your hand.
I flew without a bass and I loved it.
That must have been
I
awesome.
talked for 30 minutes and then we spent 3 days hanging out with Cafu, Danny Alvarez, and all these soccer heroes, and going to the soccer camps, and my son's getting pictures with everyone, and it was like a great youngest son moment.
That's beautiful.
And I love it. I love that. So a lot of my day these days is basically telling people what I'm telling you. I want people to know who they are. You know who I am. You know I can play. It's your turn.
Yeah.
And that's where my life has turned.
Well, I think in a lot of ways you're following the footsteps of the jazz greats who recognize the power of mentoring and leading and setting that example and having the younger cats follow in their footsteps, right? The McCoy Tyners, the Jerry Mulligans of the world, like they were all real young cats at once upon a time. And then the greats took them under their wing and said, all right, here's how you got it. Steve Bailey, with Dizzy Gillespie, like that's ridiculous. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that you're giving that to us and sharing that wisdom with the world, really.
And an interesting thing, going back a little bit, you wouldn't be able to see it in me if it wasn't in you,
Hmm.
right? Right? You can't see what you aren't. Okay. So for you to
Yeah.
see that and then to go further than seeing it, but to thank me in public, that tells me a lot about you, right? And this is where it's going to sound egotistical. I already know that I'm like that, right? That's not egotistical. It's just the truth.
Sure.
I know that I'm helping people. That's my goal. I should know
Right.
that. I know that I'm a good bass player. I know that I've added to the world of bass, good and bad. I know that. That's not egotistical. It's the truth. So when you see it, that lets me know about you.
That's cool. I like that. I think that's a good lesson for all of us. Always think about how we are reflected back in the world. And one of the
Yes.
things I want to wrap up with, and I'm glad we've gotten to touch on a lot of this great stuff. And I encourage anybody to follow Vic if you're not following him on the different social channels at Victor Wooten. But definitely pre-order the new book. And if you haven't read the previous book, The Music Lesson, I highly recommend you read The Music Lesson
Brandon,
because,
keep talking.
yeah,
I gotta run
okay,
to the restroom.
okay, you go.
I'll be right
Anybody,
back. You
okay,
keep talking.
go get The Music Lesson. I love that. That's great. If you haven't read The Music Lesson, go check it out. It's this unbelievable story about the elements of music, but it's a story of life. And if you have read that, then definitely get in line for the Spirit of Music that's coming up next. So I know my wife Sabrina hasn't read the music lesson yet, so she's going to read that first, and then the Spirit of Music. So I was lucky enough to get a sneak peek of the reading of it, and it's awesome. It's really awesome. So I bring it up because it's just so important to support our musician friends and our artist friends and all of the people down chain that they are also supporting. So, Vic is right. It's takes an ecosystem. So I know we got some questions in here. I know that that I saw some things. I'm sorry if I don't get to your questions because we've gone very long and I want to let Vic go. But I do appreciate everybody hanging out with us. I got just a couple other questions for Vic. It's about bonus time. So we're going to let him go soon. But I'm just so grateful that you all got to join us. So we'll ask Victor about bonus time when he gets back.
Bonus time, yeah.
Oh, he heard. Ah! So, Vic,
yes.
I want to ask you, before I even ask you about bonus time, real quick, I want to ask you, what Black voices do you want to amplify right now? We're talking a lot about amplifying artists and musicians, but what Black artists and musicians especially do you want to amplify? Who are you hearing that you're like, check these cats out?
Well, I mean, the latest one that came, you say Black?
Yeah.
The latest one was the beautiful woman that did the poem the other day. Because what I don't want to happen is that, okay, we see her picture, Oprah, everybody's showing her picture, but 3 days from now, we've moved on.
Right.
This woman is powerful.
Well, and I heard somebody bring it up really well with her. They said, look, it's really easy to get enamored with her, and she's so magnanimous, and she has this bright energy, and her clothes that day were great, and that halo on her head looked amazing, and everybody's like, she's just got the whole package. But some people are saying, yes, but don't lose sight of the actual words she's saying. It's the words that hooked you. Make sure you remember what she's saying and not get lost in the package.
Right. Exactly. So that's, for me, one of the most current artists that come to mind. My manager, Danette, is probably still out there. She sent me a video yesterday on Instagram. And I don't know, Danette, if you're out there and if you can type in the chat that the name of that artist that you sent yesterday, that you showed me, that's worth following up.
Okay.
And I don't know, I don't remember his name. Danette and I were both questioning because he made a comment that made us question whether he is a descendant of a great singer named Teddy Pendergrass.
Oh, I remember him. Well,
right. And this guy's name was Toby something. And at one point he said, well, today I'm going to be Toby Pendergrass. So I don't know if that meant he was really Teddy's relative or he was just saying, I'm going to sing a Teddy Pendergrass song. But his name was an African. He was using Toby Ibumwabwe, or something. But boy, they sang, he was with about 5 other singers and they sang this song. Ooh, it was so good. So Danette, if you are there, find that. Or we can also go to Danette, I think it's Danette26 or something like that, Danette on Instagram. I think it's Danette26, and find her page and see what it was. But I'll find it and share it also on my Instagram page.
Great.
But that was amazing. But there's so many artists out there. I know people of color need the help. Women need help. Transgenders and all of them. We need help. We're all underdogs. But I'm still for all people.
I know you are. I know how you roll.
And I do know that sometimes to make things balance out, we need the pendulum needs to swing far to the other side.
Sure.
And that's why it looks like, people will get afraid of that. They'll think that they have to lose something for the pendulum, that when the pendulum swings over, that I'm going to lose. No, we're all going to gain. We're all going to gain. But if it goes too far one way, to regain your balance, you don't just go back to center. You got to go the other way.
Right.
You know, that's
I
just the
heard a
way it
re-
works.
I heard a really good adage, and then I'll ask you our final question.
Yeah.
But the really good adage was that if you by blowing somebody else's candle out doesn't make yours glow any brighter, you know, and
I like
that's
that.
it. So I I,
I
I
like it.
think it sums up what you're trying to say. I
I
want to
like
ask
that.
you in our closing, tell us, what does bonus time mean to you?
Well, to me, it means that you are aware of the time you have. Okay, because my mom says you don't get. My mom would really say you don't get any extra time. You know, it just wasn't your time to go yet. Now, bonus time on the surface means I got spared. I got some extra time. I'm going to make the most of it. But really, what we got in my mind was a wake up call, and we got smart, and we're realizing that whatever time I have is bonus, right? Whether I had an accident or not, it's all bonus time,
Mm.
and that I'm going to do something with it. Because as my brother Joseph said, even if you live 100 years, that's only like 30, 36 and a half, 36, 500 something days, right? If you think about 365 uh, days in a year, 36,000, I think
Yep.
500 means
Yep.
100 years. So if you had $1 for every year, 36,000, you may be able to buy a nice car. You can't buy a house. So $1 a day. Now, statistics say none of us in this window is going to live to be 100. Add color to your skin, you're definitely not going to make it to 100. If you're male, let's cut off a few more years. And we think about the beginning of our lives, we can't even wipe our own butts. We can't make any decisions on our own, right? They tell us to sleep a third of every day. That's a whole year every 3 years. Sleep. And then we spend a lot of it watching negative stuff and then getting on another platform and complaining about it, sitting in traffic, whatever, playing Candy Crush or Fortnite. How much time is really left? It's bonus, right?
Beautiful.
The point is we need to do as much possible for the good of all with this time because we are borrowing. If I can steal a line from Anna Breitenbach, the animal communicator, she said, we're borrowing this earth from our children's future,
That's right.
right? We got to leave it to them. How we leave it needs to be handled right now.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think we could leave it right there. That's beautiful. Friends, thank you everybody for watching and being a part of this. Victor, thank you for giving us so much of your time. We know you're a busy guy, and I think you helped bring a little more light into everybody's day and evening. And I just encourage everybody out there, like, think about some of the things you heard and figure out some way to apply even just one of those tidbits you heard today. Figure out how to apply it to your life, make your life a little bit brighter, and make other people's lives a little bit brighter.
Can I say one last thing?
No, sorry, we're out of time. I'm out of tape.
Okay.
Go. Go for it.
There's a new book coming called The Spirit of Music. And there's a bunch of characters in this book. People know about Michael and Uncle Clyde and Isis from the first book, but there just might be a new character named Brandon. There just might be a new character in this book, The Spirit of Music, named Brandon, who wears orange, who's very, very happy, and talks about bonus time. There just might be. I'm not going to give the book away.
Maybe.
There might be, but there's also an audio version of the book. And when you hear the audio version, you might hear Brandon Blake's voice reading the voice of Brandon in the
Maybe.
book. You might.
Maybe.
Don't want to give it away, but they should probably buy the written book and the audio book just to find out, right?
That's right. And you know what? I got an advanced copy of the book, and I may have seen and it been introduced to this character named Brandon. I don't know. You'll have to read it and find out. And
Hey,
I don't know. My memory's a little foggy. I may have recorded some stuff for you for the audiobook. I don't know. Maybe people will just
yeah,
have to find out and get both of them.
exactly. Exactly.
Thanks,
And
Victor.
Michael might be back too. Michael and Uncle Clyde, and they might be back. Who knows? But there's
Man,
definitely some new
what a
characters.
what an honor.
And
I
India Ari might be singing on it. India
and you might
Ari
hear
might be the
Casey
voice.
Nakuru.
India Ari might be the voice of music in this new book.
Woo,
With
how'd
Keb
you
Mo, Keb Mo might be reading the part of my dad, and you know, it might, maybe, you know.
Maybe, maybe. This is beautiful. Victor, I appreciate the opportunity to be even a tiny part of the canon of your life. And I'm glad that you get to be a tiny part in the canon of my life.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I thank all these beautiful people. There's so many people. I see Jeff Stewart out there. I saw that my friend Brian is out there. Brian Belsinki. I saw Julie, Danette, Remy, just a bunch of great people out there that
Jeff, Karen,
that's like
Will,
that's our
Aaron,
family right there.
Julie,
Tina
that's right,
Reynolds.
Tony.
I think Tina was in the hot tub while she was watching this, I'm sure.
I think she's not here
Aaron.
anymore. I hope she didn't electrocute herself by dropping her phone in there.
No, no, no. But
All right, yeah,
anyway,
it's true.
thanks
We
to all
wouldn't have
those people.
we wouldn't have been able to do this without all of you. And if we did do it with just us, it would have been just a phone call, which is
Right.
great. But now we got to share it. So everybody, thank you for being here. Go to vixmerch.com, go pick something up, go pre-order your copy of The Spirit of Music and pick up the music lesson if you haven't read it. I promise by the end of that book, you'll have some life lessons. It's not just about music. So
Thank you very much, Brandon.
thanks, Victor. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. And remember, in a world where you can be anything, be kind. Love you all.
That's
Peace.
it. Thank you.